right. Welcome to the Work Culture Podcast, where good companies keep good company. And today we have right here in Austin, Texas, Justin Satterfield. And Justin is the founder and CEO of Norwood. And you guys are celebrating your ninth year in business coming up here in the summertime, right?
Yeah, 9 years.
And
So I
I,
did have
I love,
really 8 years. I had a
okay,
non-compete for a bit, so really didn't launch the business till August 2017. But
okay.
yeah, so 8 years, 9 years, whatever, feels like 30. The
And
dog
I
years of
love
startup.
on your LinkedIn, I mean, it's probably one of the most powerful stories I've read of how you got started. Would you mind kind of sharing that, you know, getting the rejection that led to starting this and kind
Yeah,
of what,
sure. Yeah. So even backing up just a tad, like my
yeah.
degree was in entrepreneurship. I grew up in a small town in Arkansas. Whole family was skilled manual labor. So me and my brother were the first people to go to college, graduate from college, both put ourselves through school, and then wanted to move to the big city, see what I had. So moved to Houston right out of school, and I just wanted to be in a startup environment. So happened to be an IT recruiter and a startup company. Went to a larger company as in healthcare sales and doing what I do now, and did really well. Everything was going great. One of the fastest people in the company, nationally in a large company, and taken to a room one day and told him, my employment was terminated effective immediately, and I always knew that I wanted to start a company, and for me. I don't even hold a grudge about it or anything, right? I had a chip on my shoulder at the time and used
Sure,
that to my
sure.
advantage, right?
And you had built a
But
substantial book of business, right?
yeah, no, I had. So, and was able to use that chip on my shoulder. But at this point, like that was the best thing you could possibly done for me. So,
Yeah.
I'll buy you a beer. You want dinner as well? Thank you for
Yeah.
pushing me over the edge. Because when that happened, it was a shock to the system. I just turned 26. I had $16,000 in my name, and within 48 hours, I'd kind of come to the conclusion that it's either the best thing that ever happened to me or the worst, and that's 100% my decision, no one
Turns
else's,
out to be one of the
right?
best, huh?
It turns out to be, yeah, one of the best for sure, and uh,
I love
and
that.
so I'm grateful for that. And so it was either leave the industry or do it on my own, and obviously I chose the latter.
Yeah.
And so took out as many credit cards as I could while I still had a credit score, and became a bootstrapping solo entrepreneur.
And so, can you tell us a little bit more, go into as much detail as you want of what you guys do at Norwood? I know you all are in the medical field,
Yeah,
but a
absolutely.
little bit more about
So
that.
we're in a very niche world of healthcare revenue cycles, specifically the mid-revenue cycle in healthcare. So we work with mainly, large health systems nationally, as well as provider groups and some payers as well. But the way the revenue cycle works and mid-revenue cycle specifically, so you go through patient access, they check your insurance, all those good things, right? You go see a physician, whether you're having, open heart surgery or you got a broken thumb, and that physician is going to, clinically write on a chart what happened, what's the diagnosis, what was the medical necessity, what happened in the operating room, and you have to convert that information to alphabetical numerical codes. That's medical coding.
Okay.
So there's a clinical documentation piece as well as the medical coding. And so you can only code precisely what is written clinically. So there's also, documentation integrity because you have to write things a
Mm,
certain way to get the proper codes. So you can't tell a physician what to write, but you can query them. You can ask non-leading compliant questions because clinical language and government language aren't exactly the same thing as well.
okay.
So you got to be able to write properly to get the right codes, to get the accurate reimbursement, and be on the good side of the healthcare revenue cycle to limit those denials, to make sure
Okay.
that hospitals are getting the reimbursement they need, but also that families aren't stuck with that medical debt because the insurance company denied their claim.
Mm,
So
okay.
so
So
we
y'all are
we, we
kind of bridging
staff
that gap.
yes, we staff the people doing that work as well as so we really started as a staffing company. That was my background was
Yep.
straight staffing. So we do that, but then I always wanted to be a true solutions company, and that's what we've really kind of evolved into over the past 3 years, is really building the consulting org up as well as managed services. So we'll come in, we'll do provider education, external audits, build clinical documentation programs, all of that good stuff, and then you can even outsource it to us. So
Okay.
we run some departments where we'll just do the work for you. Like,
Oh wow.
as far as the management, reporting, we can handle it all.
Wow. So y'all even have like a full do it for you
Yeah.
product. Awesome. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. We have a lot of talented folks here internally, so
Okay.
they're very good
And
at what they do.
are everyone here in Austin, or do y'all have folks that are remote?
I am the only employee in Austin.
Okay. Oh, I
Actually,
love
we
that.
no, we have one more up north. But yeah, no, it started as a remote company. Being in such a niche space as mid-revenue cycle in healthcare, there's not that many companies that do what we do.
Sure.
Um, you know, my kind of original thesis in starting this was, how do you build an environment, build a culture where the best want to come? I want the best salespeople, or the best recruiters, or the best consultants. And in that, well, the best talents around the nation.
Yeah.
And then it evolved from there. And I mean, in an ideal world, sure, I'd love to have an office for 2 or 3 days a week, and I certainly miss that environment. But would I trade that for having the best talent? No.
No. Yeah.
Like, the best talents around the nation, and not, especially when we live in a city too, right? It's like, all right, what's your radius? Like, you get 5 miles that you
Yeah.
can build a team out of. Like, all right, I got to
Yeah.
pick the very best people within this 5 mile radius. That's a commutable distance. Like, oh, like I always kind of subscribe to that whole idea of, you can have a brilliant idea. I'll take the best people and a okay idea over a mediocre team and a brilliant idea any day.
Yeah.
Give me the right people, we'll build some cool shit.
Hell yeah. Okay. I love that. So as we like kind of transition in, I'm going to start with that question I told you about when we first talked. What is a
Okay.
mistake in leadership that you feel like you've made that you'll never forget?
Man, what chapter, what function?
That's it.
Like,
And it can be more than one.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's funny. There's so many, right? I think it's one of the most addicting things about entrepreneurship as well, is the learning curve. It's even myself a year ago, or myself looking back 2 years ago, like, that guy was an idiot. He didn't know anything. Like, you're constantly solving problems and constantly learning and evolving, and that's not just through the problems that you face at work, and having to provide those outcomes and see what happens on the other side of executing what you thought was the best idea, but also the thousands of conversations you have with other entrepreneurs, the books that you read. There's so much to learn, and I still have so much to learn. And to the extent, even talking to, one thing that we've done really well, and I've done well the entire time I've been doing this, is networking with other entrepreneurs. So I've met so many, and one of the things I learned early on was, it was cool to talk to entrepreneurs that had built, exited companies for 200 million, 500 million, whatever. But one thing I realized, especially when we were smaller, was the relevance. And that, if you went and talked to someone who sold a company for $500 million, and you're talking about these problems and true startup, like, it was too long ago. They don't
Yeah.
remember what it was like to be in that position. They don't remember what they did when they were in that position, because they've lived so many lives since then,
Yeah.
in the dog years of entrepreneurship, right? And so one thing that we do is, Clayton and I, my COO, we have a standing weekly meeting, lessons learned. And so we
Mm.
review the week every single week, and we write down those lessons learned. So we have captured a weekly log for, I think, 3 or 4 years now, of kind of what happened and what we took away from it, so we don't forget all those lessons. Because
I love that.
it doesn't you've never solved, right? You've never solved for communication. You've never solved entirely for org structure. Everything evolves, and what got you here won't get you there. So you're never just like done with something. It's like when you think you've cleared up one gray area, another one pops up, and
Yeah.
like and anytime we're like, I think we're good. I think everything's pretty solid right now. We're like, shit, what's
Yeah.
about to happen? Like, enjoy this. But I would say as far as if I was gonna go overarching like huge lessons, I mean, people are everything. And even for me, like I'm a professional recruiter. I'm very good at what I do. But hiring is so hard. And, and because, I think people are really bad about talking about culture. You're like, oh, we have a great culture. Cool. What is it?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, cool. You have ping pong tables. That's great. What is your culture? Culture is the makeup of every individual here, who they are as people and what they bring to the organization. So, I think getting very poignant and tight on your hiring process, but also your firing process and how that's tied to not only performance but also core values and uh, you living and living and the walking the walk, kind of talking the talk as far as uh, who we say we are and what we kind of stand by. And I think that as far as kind of a really big overarching lesson there, I was like early on, it's like, you have this pride about, oh, like everyone I've hired is still here and, they're going to be here till the end, whenever that is. And it's like, some people evolve with the company and some don't. Some people are the right people and those multifunctional players in the early days, but as the company gets bigger, now I need very specific roles filled and very specific people. And also people's lives change. Like maybe they were a great culture fit before, but maybe something went on in their personal life, or they just don't function as well in a organization that has more structure for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You're always measured on. So even our quarterly reviews and our annual reviews you're measured 50% on performance and 50% on culture. And you have to have both. We've
Really.
terminated people that are excellent performers because they weren't a culture fit. Uh,
I love
and
that.
and we've also had people I absolutely loved that just didn't perform or stopped performing. And um, so I think that's probably like the biggest overarching lesson is like your people are everything, and you have to be extremely intentional about how you build culture, but then you have to be just as dedicated to protecting that culture
Mm.
as you grow and evolve. And that comes, people are like, how do you build culture? Like, culture is the people. So how do you build culture? It's hiring, but it's also firing. Like, and it's, something that you have to stay attentive to always.
Yeah. Well, I love that, slow to hire, quick to fire.
Yeah,
And I've seen it in my own self.
right.
I mean, when I was younger, it's funny, I was laughing with someone yesterday, like the game has changed so drastically. But I mean, I can remember so many times me as a salesperson finding an opportunity and very quick. I mean, I'm a salesperson. I was able
Yeah,
to figure out what they were looking for, what they needed, and
right.
I'm good at interviews and good at quickly
Hmm.
getting people to like me.
Yep,
And boom, I'd get hired and could quickly ramp up and quickly close deals. And
right,
I've been in roles where even I knew after a year or 2 years or 3 years, like, man, this isn't for me. But because I was a high performer, they would keep me on, even
right,
knowing, I mean, I'm smart enough. I'm a businessman. I'm an entrepreneur. Even in the back of my head, I know I shouldn't be here. They should,
right.
but because of the numbers,
Yep, of the
um,
numbers.
absolutely, yeah, it's wild. And I wonder if you've heard about this kind of the difference in hiring for culture fit versus
Hmm.
culture fill. And the person that I heard, I cannot remember his name, but he talked about, yeah, what do most companies do is they go just for the fit. Hey, we want someone that's going to fit with our culture versus we have this culture and we have our chart,
Hmm.
but we have some gaps that we need to fill. So
Right,
we want someone that's going to fit in our culture, but that they're
right,
going to fill in these gaps that we need as well. Because yeah, sometimes having just all the people
right.
that are culture fit may not be necessarily the right people in the right seats that can best perform the role. I don't
Yeah,
know if y'all
no,
have seen that.
We really haven't. And I think we also operate in a world that's just kind of naturally diverse. I mean, the majority of our people leaders are women. We work in a heavily woman-dominated industry, which is awesome. I think last time we ran the numbers, like 87% of our total employees are women, and that also brings in a ton of different ethnicity as well. And so
So very
I feel
diverse.
like
I
we
love
really
it.
haven't had to really focus on that piece as much, and and I think if you look at our company, you're like, oh, I don't know, there's also a lot of white people here, and it's like, yeah, there are, but you also don't realize like a lot of these people are first generation Americans, like it, and so we've had quite a bit of diversity in that range. But I agree with you, and I hear that that there has to be intentionality there, and that you don't
Yeah.
want to create an echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
Of yes people or not challenging perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like that. So you do have to be intentional about that. For us, I mean, as far as culture fit, the way we kind of do it, as far as the kind of the diversity piece of that is, so you go through kind of normal interview process of initial screening, possibly talking with the hiring manager, a technical screening, but our cultural interview, we actually pull in. I think it's around four people in that interview, but from different departments that are not the department you would work in. And so we're
Interesting.
pulling in different departments that are, and it's a, lack of better words, it's a F yes or it's a no.
Yeah.
Like if you don't pass the culture interview, like it's a no. Um, and like we kind of take that seriously.
And I don't think children are watching our podcast, so you can say
Okay.
fuck yes. It's
All
okay.
right. Fuck yes.
Hey,
All
if
right. That's
Gary
what
V
it
can
is.
say it, we can say it, right?
That's true. That's fair. That's fair.
Well, no, I love
Words flow a
that. I
little
mean,
freely over here, so
one
that's
of
that's culture.
one of the most fascinating things to me is in the 4 years we've been doing this podcast, we've gotten to talk to some amazing leaders that are doing just really interesting things, and that I really love what y'all are doing with your hiring process. That's amazing. Can
Yeah.
you
So
point to, I mean, being from day one, fully remote, I mean, what are things that you're doing? You talked about kind of the intentionality with hiring, but intentionality with building that culture and like what are the things that I guess you would say that are the biggest factors to the continuing that and keeping that going?
yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I think communication is a fundamental building block to any relationship, right? Like you put it on trust and you put down communication.
Sure.
What is a relationship without communication? Nothing.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't exist. So it is understanding communication flows, which you're never going to perfect communication, and communication evolves with the size of the organization and and this is kind of the years in it, right? You always have to stay on top of it. If someone could solve for communication, like you win. You're $1 trillion company
Yeah, yeah.
because it is like 80% of all problems in any company anywhere is
Sure.
communication. So I think being diligent around that, like meeting cadences, and we're virtual, but we're very big on being face to face on camera. So I feel like I'm around my team all the time, and I see people all the time. So I think that's a meaningful thing. Is like that is kind of an expectation that that you are on camera, so we're talking face to face.
Sure.
Yes, it's not the exact same, but uh, to have the right people, like it helps bridge that gap. And then I think that's the biggest piece is that communication. I think there's also culture just in like banter and keeping things light in ways. I remember one of my folks one time. She's like, I don't think I've ever been in a meeting and not like there not been laughter. Like
Yeah.
we like to like
I
poke at
love
each
that.
other and have fun. If you give me a chance to get a dig on you, I'm taking it. I'm going to shoot my shot. But I think one of the biggest things, and I think is overlooked or it's become just this generic term, is core values.
Yeah.
Um, and if you look at uh, culture, right? Even before COVID, according to Harvard, the number one reason someone still left a job was a bad manager.
Oh yeah.
That's number three post COVID. Number
Yeah.
one is this company's not for me. It's culture.
Yeah.
And so, how are you defining culture, right? And so, with that, like I think core values are huge, but it's not just having the right core values. It's also how are you talking about them? How are you living them? Like, so we have, every Monday's our team meeting. So we have shout outs from the week before of someone going above and beyond and living one of those core values. And then, what we do with that is on, so we have our annual retreat, which is a big one for
Okay.
us. We call it Camp Norwood. So I think next
Okay.
year will be Camp Norwood 5.
Where do
And
y'all do
so
that at?
it's been our first year was in North Carolina. The rest of them have been in Texas.
Okay.
So it's been mostly in hill country, different retreats. And so
Love it.
I fly everybody in, and it's 3 days of 100% play, no work. So
Oh, I
we
love
work
that.
together all year, right? And
Yeah.
the idea of it for me is, do you have more fulfillment in your job because of shared experiences and shared stories and laughter, so that when you do go home, that when you're working with that person next week, that there's just a bit of a closer connection. You find more fulfillment in your job because that bond's a little bit tighter. And
Yeah.
so we have themed happy hours and games, and like we've had like Norwood Olympics and scavenger
Okay.
hunts and all the camp games. So it's a good time. So I think it's a big part of it is camp and leading up to camp. But one of the things we do at camp is those value shout outs on Monday actually puts you kind of on a list for that value. And then we
Okay.
vote before we go to camp. And so like one person's going to win that value award
Okay.
at camp. And so that's kind of a big celebration for us. And we actually created I have a bunch of them over there in a frame, but we have these waymarks. So
Okay.
Clayton, our CEO, makes these in his wood shop, and because we're like, all
Really?
right, what is it? What is an award system that isn't like you just buy a trophy online? Like,
Yeah.
we all try to be really creative with branding things like that. We get to own them. Like if you look at our core values, like they're really branded to us. Like they're very unique. You're not going to see them anywhere else. And so that's what we do with our award system as well. That there's this brand around these waymarks, and a waymark you'll even see in our core values that the theme is kind of like this journey, right? Like I think of a career as like a big part of our human experience and our journey in this lifetime. And so waymarks, like if you're hiking or on a trail, are those diamonds or triangles on
Yep.
a tree that show you that you're going the right way, that you're on the right path.
Okay.
And so we kind of took that idea of earning a waymark, because you have the values waymarks, you have performance waymarks. We have a few other ways to get them. This is a Inc. 5000 one, so this was we have like company award waymarks, and so everyone is going to have different ones, and it kind of tells your journey with the company and that you were on
I
the
love
right
that.
path. And so it's almost kind of like this merit badge system. If you think about
Okay.
the scouts of kind of earning your merit
Wait, are
badges
you
and
an
the
Eagle Scout?
I'm not actually. I quit
Okay.
at Life Scout. Everyone else in my family is an Eagle Scout, so I grew up in the
Oh,
Scouts.
bummer. I bet they razz you about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Mom was very disappointed. I'm sorry, Mom. I know you were mad at me, but I got bored. I get bored easily.
It that should be
Which
like
is
college. You should be able to go back later in life and finish your Eagle
just
project
yeah.
and
That
like,
was like literally all I had left was like my project. I just didn't want to do
yeah.
it. I was more interested in football and hanging out with friends. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is the job that brought me to Austin coming up on 20 years ago, I did fundraising for the Boy Scouts of America for
Mm-hmm.
4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And in my interview, and it's kind of funny, I mean, it was a thing I didn't really think about, but in my interview, he says, "Hey, were you ever in Scouts yourself?" And I was like, "No, but come to think of it, I remember I was in like third or fourth grade and they came to my school and recruited us. And I remember I'm the youngest of four, and my mom, I still remember it being a big deal, her coming up with the money to get me signed up for a year, and you had to pay, all at once for like the first year's dues and maybe the uniform and the handbook,
Right.
and she paid that money, and I remember getting a call like the next week, and it's giving me chill bumps kind of remembering it now, because we got a call and they said, "Man, we got to tell you, you were duped. That person has
Oh
has taken
no.
all your money, and you're
Oh,
not
that's
actually a
terrible.
member of the Boy Scouts." And so I never actually got to do Boy Scouts. But then I used that to say, but you know what? If I'm hired, I will ensure that that never happens to another kid, But
He
yeah,
probably
that
hasn't
it
heard that
was
story before, so
yeah,
that's some
it
salesmanship.
was a
God,
fascinating time, and I am
what kind of position
still
you got to be in life
friends.
to rip off a fourth grader
I
for
know
Boy
it,
Scout?
like, oh my
Wow.
goodness. But I'm still friends to this day. He's like a mentor. That same guy that hired me then,
Yeah,
he's like the CEO of the Boy Scouts up in Wisconsin now.
nice.
But yeah, a lot of good life lessons taught from those folks. So okay, well, Justin, like as you guys are coming into 2025, I mean, what are the biggest challenges that you guys are facing, kind of as we're coming into the year, or that are on your radar?
I'd say biggest challenges are, I mean, it's just executing and growth. Like we've built a machine to be bigger than we are now, and we just have to scale. We got to execute. So, and,
Okay,
and with that comes some more hiring. I think we got to hire like I think 14 or 15 people in Q1 alone,
okay,
internally. And so, yes, that piece, continue to build the sales org, but our solutions org is really taken off. So got to hire more consultant level people in that space, and really just trying to keep up with the work on that side. Like we got more work than we could almost handle. I mean, we're stretching people thin, so part of that is also ensuring that your people aren't getting burned out.
yeah,
So there's always a thin line to skate there of utilization versus burnout, right? Making sure that hey, you don't want to be overstaffed and people, sitting there twiddling their thumbs, but
sure,
also it's a fine line to walk when someone's mental health is getting impacted or their family life's getting impacted because of just the toll that work is taking on them if it's prolonged. Sure,
so
sometimes we all got to just be gritty, but you got to
sure,
also understand the reality of that and make sure that you're keeping up with the hiring from a leadership perspective that you're you're not missing out. You're in the game. You understand the need, and
yeah,
you're actively pursuing those reliefs coming in. Because worst thing you possibly have is the person you really need that's ends up in the hospital or
yeah,
is just can't handle it. Just leaves. Like you gotta you know you work so hard to bring in the right people. You gotta again work just as hard. Talk about firing, but you also gotta work just as hard to make sure that this is the place they still want to be.
sure. Now, do y'all have things in place to kind of? Because in my opinion, I don't think many people talk about mental health enough, or if they do, it's almost always in a negative light,
Right.
like putting someone down because they're sharing about it. I mean, do y'all have things in place where for either allowing those discussions or where people can kind of come and talk about that stuff?
From a systematic perspective, if we do, it's not something that I'm aware of. But also,
Okay.
like, you know, it's funny. Early years, you're like, oh man, like, I don't want HR. Like, I don't want to mess with that stuff. And the
Yeah.
bigger you get, you're like, thank God for HR. I love
Yeah.
HR. So
Very needed.
I'm sure they probably do some things. I know we have systematic check-ins, employee surveys, like all that kind of stuff,
Sure,
right?
sure.
But I think it's more, even more than that. I think it's just the culture that does exist here, that it is a very open environment, and we have a lot of strong personal connections. So for someone to not be talking to someone, I would find that odd. Like we kind of know what's going on with each other, and it is very open to the extent that I think even in my early years, it was almost too much. I was, too much kind of white knighting in that, oh, I can get someone through this problem, and sometimes you can't.
Sure, yeah.
And at the end of the day, like you do have to run a business, and there's only so much give that you can provide before it's hurting the organization.
Sure.
But I would say that we've been on the pretty extreme lenient side of that, and like I'm very big on people's mental health and helping people evolve. Right, I think one of the things I did early on, um, when I first got started that first year, I really became a student again, and kind of my philosophy is like the greatest gift that you can give the world is become your highest self. And I think that as a leader, I said, like, if I'm going to lead an organization, it's important that I pursue that all out, but also that, you need to study psychology, you need to study philosophy, like you need to equip yourself with the tools to help people not only at work but to help people in life. Kind of
I
how do you
love that.
become that psychiatrist or philosopher within your organization to um, it's all about perspective shifting, right? Like someone already thinks a certain way and they already feel a certain way and they're dealing with something in a mental health capacity. How are you offering alternative perspectives and tools and resources and ideas to help them get through that? I
Mm,
mean,
that's
you
good.
get so, and because we were really encouraging about, bringing your whole self to work. Like you got to be you. Like we talk about
Yeah.
that all the time. Like it's got to be you. You got to, but that also includes your whole self. Like I'm not interested in a bunch of just work bots.
Yeah.
That's what makes culture great is that you're getting the whole person and who they authentically are. So, and even our team chats and group chats and all that, like super active. So if someone's dealing with something like
Are we talk like
almost
Slack
always,
kind of stuff or?
we use Teams, but
Okay.
Slack,
Okay.
same thing,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So like, I mean, someone throws something in there. Like we just had one of our gals, like her dogs went missing. Like, whole
Hmm.
community's like super supportive, and
Yeah.
oh, sorry, I've been a little absent the past couple of days. Hey, no problem. Like, get it. Like, go find your dogs. So I think and that it's cool because the community is so supportive that people do share, right?
Yeah. And then
Which
that just continues the
yeah, and that
positive
just
snowball.
yeah,
Wow. I
absolutely.
love that.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm 42 now.
Right.
I was first told that I had depression at age 13.
Yep.
And not at, not to shit talk, but I was raised religious, and it was kind of like a, well, no, God will take care of this kind of a
Right.
thing. And so for many years, it was a very shameful. We don't talk about it. We don't,
Mm-hmm.
like. But as I got older and as I became more of who I am today, I learned that most people feel that same shame. And so what I actually have one of the tattoos that I have is kind of mental health related. And it has happened before that just bringing up my tattoo and saying, "Hey, can I share some of my mental health journey?" that someone else would then feel this freedom
Yep.
to share back.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's needed more in the workplace to be able to, that vulnerability to be able to, like you said, bring your full self. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's but that support's got to be there of accepting that, and then also, and sometimes it's not about saying the right thing. Sometimes it's acknowledging and letting someone just have that space, right? I think
Yeah,
allowing people to be vulnerable. And I think starts from the top. Like you have to be vulnerable as a leader if
absolutely.
you want people to be vulnerable.
Yeah, you got to
Like
give them that.
you get me at face value always. Like you know what I'm feeling, you know what I'm thinking. But I think mental health is something that you know you look back not too far ago, right? Like we were still doing lobotomies. Like we did all kinds of atrocious things. Like not all that
Whew.
long ago. It's like wow, that's crazy. And
Yeah,
like all right, so what are people 20 years from now, 30 years from now going to look back and be like, wow, that was barbaric.
yeah,
And I think a lot of that's going to be centered around mental health, like in our lack of understanding of those chemical reactions. Like, people, and for me, like I've never really dealt with depression or anxiety or any of that, but I have a lot of friends that have, and I've been around it. And like, people are like, oh, just stop being anxious. You have anxiety. It's like, you don't understand. There's a chemical reaction
yeah,
going on there. Like, if you've never been around someone that's had an anxiety attack, like, it's real. It's
yeah,
very real. I know very intelligent people that, like, when you get into that depression spiral, like they logically know it doesn't make sense. They
yeah,
understand
yeah,
conceptually that they just shouldn't feel this way and that they should be able to claw out of that tunnel. But like that chemical reaction's strong.
yeah.
Like
It
you're
feels
dealing with
impossible.
something real.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, the first time it happened to me, I was in my first big boy job after college, And I still remember it was one of my coworkers found me in our storage room on the floor
Yep.
in the fetal position, and I was like, I had no clue what happened, and it had just,
Yep.
and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
So
100%.
yeah, definitely, it changes the way that you receive other people.
Yep.
Absolutely, and I love hearing you say that. Of like, I've personally never dealt with that, but I've seen it in my friends and developing the skills to be able to be a supportive friend in
Right.
many cases is the the greatest thing that you can do as a friend. I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. What's interesting is I'd never even heard of this until recently. I interviewed another CEO up in Maryland, and they have a company that they use VR
Hmm.
for therapy.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they've got a mental health and a mental wellness component. And the mental wellness component, you could download the app on your own VR, and it'll help you with meditations and yoga and
Right.
things like that. But then they have where you're only doing it with a psychologist or a therapist of some sort, and they're walking you through, working through past painful moments and traumatic moments.
Right.
And man, the future is
Yeah.
now. Like I was so blown away by it. I'm like, dude, please like get me in touch with someone. I want to go and experience this
Right.
for myself to like it sounds so powerful. I love the kind of where we're going with that stuff.
Yeah,
So,
it's remarkable. I don't think that's like something that's gonna die. Like
yeah,
like
no, it's
like
only going to get better.
it's. I think it's people understanding that it is real.
Yeah.
Like
So
so.
as we're like, we're in Q1 2025. Like
Hmm.
what's on the horizon for you guys this year? Like do you and you may not be able to share certain things, but what are some big things that maybe you guys are working on?
Yeah, I can share all the details. But
Yeah.
no, again, I'll just go back to for us, it's really execution. Like we have aggressive growth plans for this year, and that's going to revolve around uh, the work that we're bringing in and hiring more people to ensure that we're doing that work, right? And the thing is, when you scale fast, which has been our experience, right? We went from, you know, I mean, to put in perspective, like what 2019 I did like $400,000,
Okay.
and coming into Q1 of 2020 I had two employees, three including me. Fast forward a day with over 200 employees and north of 20 million. So like experiencing that rapid growth, like things evolve and change so much, and like things break when you scale fast. Things break, and you have to invest in the machine
Yep.
to keep it going, right? Because there's a good book, No Man's Land, Doug Tatum. He's I've met the guy, awesome dude, and it talks about, it's like you can stay a small company or you can grow, but everyone crosses this path of like no man's land from kind of a financial perspective. Like grow or die is real. Like you
Mhm.
can't live in no man's land because you have to overinvest in infrastructure for the company to achieve scale. And but if you don't get to that scale, like you can't. It's not sustainable to continue to pay for this robust machine if you can't get there and grow.
Yeah.
So either scale or go back down, but you
Yeah.
can't just live in between. And so I think we have some really aggressive growth plans for. I think just in the past couple of years on the staffing side, the whole industry is, and even across all the industries. I hear from staffing CEOs like, oh, it's the worst it's been in 30 years or 20 years or whatever. We've experienced some of that, but I think
What
we've done quite
specifically?
well.
Like with the actually finding the right talent or
No, just like
retaining
the
or
the the market, just companies spent
Oh, okay,
on
okay.
talent, right?
Okay, okay.
And so I think that macroeconomics of interest rates and all those things that are
Sure.
above my pay grade.
Sure,
I'll let
sure.
smarter people figure that stuff out. I'm just really good at hiring people.
Yeah.
But no, but yeah, I mean that's really the plan for us, and it's really continue to build that solutions org as well as the staffing org, and making sure that you're as you scale too, that client concentration's in the right place, that you continue to have the right people. Like that is an evolving door, that your communication is there. I mean, you kind of go back to the basics, but the basics never hold true as you scale, and especially if you scale rapidly. Uh, Things break.
The
People are no longer
basics
the right
never
fit.
hold true if you scale.
Like, I mean, they like you always got to focus on those things. And like,
Yeah.
once you think that it's done and dusted and you're good, like, oh, now we need a new technology on this side of the business because this isn't working. Like, we got to get out of Excel spreadsheets and this side of the business. And
Sure.
that's another big move we'll be making this year is moving to a new platform internally. So we uh, probably moving to Salesforce. So we'll be looking forward to that. But I mean those
That's a
things
big
like you start.
undertaking.
And it's a big undertaking, but
Yeah.
we did the same thing with our HRIS system last year.
Okay.
So you got to continue. You got to continue to reinvest. You
Yeah.
got to continue to involve. So, which was always for me in building this thing. I still own the company, and most people in our space are all owned by private equity or public
Hmm.
companies, and there's very few like actually private companies, with solo owners or a couple owners. But with that, gave me the authority to reinvest aggressively.
Yeah.
Uh, and so this is my baby. This is what I want to do. Like let's grow.
I love that.
Yeah.
Man, that's exciting stuff. So, as we're wrapping up here, anything in particular you might want to plug today? Anything for you
Um,
personally or for Norwood?
I don't know how large your community of mid-revenue cycle professionals are, but
Massive.
massive. So I'm not sure how valuable that plug's gonna be.
We've got
Got a bunch.
all of them.
I got all the medical coders listening to
All of them.
Work Cultured podcast. I know it's a
Absolutely.
huge hit out there.
Absolutely.
So no, man, I that have made this happen, right? Not a self-made man. Like it was all the people and all the advisors and all my friends and network, but most importantly, the people that are here doing the work
Yeah,
that has gotten us to where we're at. If I was a one-man show, I'd still be a lot smaller than we are.
sure.
It's the people that built this place that I'm super proud of and thankful for and grateful. So it's been a very fulfilling journey. That's one thing I talk about. As I plug that too, as far as one thing I talk about in the company a lot is how much time we spend in our human experience at a paid occupation, right? The average American will spend 90,000 hours in a paid occupation, and that's if they only work 40 hours a week.
Wow.
And I always kind of point to like Sigmund Freud wrote that love and work are the cornerstones of humanness, and he was talking about from a psychological perspective, but even at face value, right? Like our adult life, you got work and you got love, like the relationships that people you choose to spend time with, and then throw in sleep, and like that's pretty much our adult life
Yeah.
for the most part. And so being that you're going to spend so much of your human experience in a paid occupation, like for me it has to be one, fulfilling and meaningful work, something that you're actually proud of, that you can look back on. It was time well spent, because I do think
Yeah.
you can really find fulfillment in work, and that's what I hope for everyone that works here. Um, and then two, that it's with people you actually want to be around. It's like meaningful, fulfilling work and being around people that you actually respect and care for and perhaps even love.
Yeah.
Like, all right, if I'm gonna work, that's what I want. And why can't you have those things and also be successful is kind of my philosophy. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
let's get the right people, let's get the right culture, and then let's go get it.
Yeah.
get after it. And I think with that, it's like if you can build that, then the right people want to continue to come here, right? It's like,
Sure.
man, if I could hire all the people that have knocked on our door saying like, you got a job for me, like, I wish I was that rich, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So, gotta focus on the company and the growth and scale responsibly, right? When you don't have investors and you don't have, uh, a war chest sitting over there, like you have to be very intentional with how you spend your resources and how you grow the company. So it's always a battle, but
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it and wouldn't have it any other way. So
I love
we'll
that.
keep battling.
Nice. Well, I know that we're both in Austin and we weren't able to do this in person today, but I definitely would love to, maybe we can grab a lunch or something here in the near
Yeah,
future. And
absolutely.
um, I do have one final thing we like to finish with. And at first, I was like, when we first started doing the podcast, I was like, it's cheesy, but I was like, no, it's fun because it's a quick little.
All right. What do you got?
So the last one and my favorite, because I'm a golfer,
Okay.
is golf or tennis.
Golf or tennis?
Yep.
I'm going golf for sure. I've had 3 knee surgeries, and the way sprinting on a court and pivoting works, I'm gonna I'm gonna swing a golf club.
Okay. Do you actively, are you like actively play golf?
No, I'm terrible.
Okay.
No, I will go play golf, but
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
better at the drinking part than I am the golfing
Okay.
part.
Okay.
No,
Hey, and
I'm
that's a
more of an
valuable
outdoorsman. I love to
tool.
go climb mountains and mountain bike and do those
Yeah.
things. I really do like golf. For me, it's the time investment for golf to get good
Yeah.
at it. There's just so many other things I would personally really do.
Okay. Okay. All right. Next one. Well, and I think I know the answer now, but mountains or beaches?
Mountains.
Yeah, I figured. I figured.
I love mountains. I've lived in Colorado the past couple summers, and I'm gonna go live in Montana and Wyoming this summer. So yeah,
Nice.
no,
Okay.
I love being in the mountains. That's my happy place.
All right. Beer or whiskey? Yeah.
I would say I drink more beer than I drink whiskey. I used to drink a lot more whiskey, but now I'm more of a tequila mezcal guy.
Interesting. Okay. All right. And then last one, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning.
Morning person. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I'm a little of both. Like I'll stay up late and then I'm still up like this morning, still up at, 5:45, but
Yeah,
so
no, I don't like because at night it's like if you're working, it's like all right, then you gotta try to shut off your brain and do
yeah,
that. But then also like for me, it's like all right, well if you're not working, like what are you doing late at night? It's like watching TV, like I don't know. I think it's too easy for me to like just do things that aren't really worthwhile
sure.
late into the night. So I prefer to just get to bed and get up and get the day started.
Get going. All
Yeah,
right. Well, I love it. Justin, it's been an absolute pleasure. Appreciate having you on the podcast.
absolutely, man. Thanks
And
for having me.
we will say goodbye for now.